Hey Nick, we need a tagline for the podcast.
No.
Real life opinions. Movie reviews told by fans and not critics.
Well, here we are, guys. We're doing horror villains. We said we were going to do villains, and somehow or another it changed into this.
It was quite the conversation. That little thread went on quite humorously, actually.
All day.
Starting at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
Right? Damn you two.
We gotta address the elephant in the room. Mike, you might
that is
an elephant.
I have an eating disorder, okay?
we
don't have a stupidity problem.
At least you don't have a little guy like following around with a tube.
Well, at least I got a beard. Okay? I fit in there, right?
We all have a beard. Laura's is growing pretty nicely, actually. So.
Good job, Laura. Good job with the beard.
It's Halloween, what can I say? I'm gonna match these psychos.
So we've got a fourth podcaster with us today. Mike, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mike.
They can't see you wave your hand.
I do the same thing.
Okay. So I'm Mike Hicks. I run Infinite Imagination Traveling Theater out of the Bailey Theater, and my brain has been corrupted by theater. So I'm going to try and bring a different dynamic to the discussions.
I'm excited, personally, because we all have our isms. And I think that, A, giving us more chance to debate is going to excite me, because that's what makes our podcast great. And B, your knowledge is going to just bring a lot. So,
As long as we stay on track, right?
I promise nothing.
Me either, so this is great.
This one's going to be off the rails today. I know it. So we're going to start off. We got top fives. Everyone's got their own top fives. So you're going to have to see 4 top 5 lists. I wrote stuff down today, guys. Look at this list Mike has. Wow.
Whoa.
Like notes upon notes.
I got a Post-it note.
Well, these are Post-it notes, but they're big.
Yeah.
When I get excited,
Mine's on the back of old mail.
I do the work.
See, cell phones have this wonderful thing called notes. Okay, except for you, Jeff, you have a flip phone.
Oh, hey, by the way, Mike, this is my phone.
Holy cow. What is it, 1995?
I like to party like it's 1999.
We're going to party like it's 1699.
That was such a good time. Well, I guess we better get this thing rolling. Laura, you're on that side of the couch. Why don't we start with you with your number? So here's how I think we should do it,
Counting
guys.
down. Always counting down.
Yeah, counting down. Laura does her 5. Corey, me, Mr. Hicks.
Okay, so are we starting from 5 or starting
Yes.
from 1?
And
No,
the counting
yeah,
down
you always
part.
go down, and then I think our honorable mention should be right before 1. Okay,
4-1? Okay.
right before. 1.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's.
Oh.
Are we allowed more than one honorable mention?
As long as one of them doesn't become a discussion.
Well, this is
one
going to
of my
be
honorable
hard.
mentions is going to become a discussion.
Is it going to become a discussion or an argument?
Let's hear your number 5 first, Laura.
Hey, back to work.
My number 5 is actually Candyman.
Nice.
Yeah,
Love Candyman. It's got to be the original. It portrays the story very well. Again, not exactly a horror. It's more of a thriller. Concept of it?
Candyman's a horror.
It is slow enough to be classified as a thriller.
Again, based on my definition of horror, it is a horror.
Have you ever seen Candyman? Because I haven't.
I have.
Jeff, are you serious?
Come on, man.
I have seen it, and yeah, it seemed to me as a pretty solid horror type movie. Had all sorts of.
For me,
And it's got a
stuff.
supernatural element to
And
it.
it did have
Is
supernatural.
So
that
my-
the one with the mirror? And I guess like if you say his name 3 times.
Yeah.
Yes,
Black
it's
eye,
based
a trench
off.
coat, and a hook for a hand.
It's based off the same
Oh,
urban
yeah,
legends
bees.
It's
as.
like Beetlejuice, but different.
Yeah.
No. So it's based off the same urban legend as Bloody Mary.
And it's actually Clive Barker who did it. And Clive
Yes.
Barker is a hell of imagination. He's
Yes.
a fan, so.
Your turn. Oh, wait, I'm doing all of them?
Count them down.
Okay, and then
No, I thought we were gonna do all of our fives.
do
Oh.
fives, and then we're going to go back around.
Yeah, that
Okay,
was,
I missed that.
I literally just said the rules.
Yeah, but I thought when you said counting down, I thought every person.
Everybody
we
did-
count them down in the.
Oh, we're going in a circle. Okay.
Yeah, we're going.
Okay.
All right, don't touch me there. What's it called?
It's hard, like, define. We don't have to go by that rule if there's a different way we want to do it.
No.
But that was.
We're recording. So
Rules schmools.
We should give them the rules before we started recording. That would have been.
It's
that's
not
what
that we
professionals
didn't.
do.
I just obviously don't know how to listen.
Hey, to be honest, I was with you. I thought that's what he meant too. Is you do 5 and you do 5. Okay, but no.
But no, we
I don't mind the spiral down either. That's
technically we should have only done 4 because honorable mentions. But
No,
okay,
fine.
your turn, Corey.
Anyway, number 5. Honestly, just because of the popularity alone as of late, I picked Art the Clown.
Art the Clown. What's? Oh my God! I know the show you're talking about.
You got me on that.
You
one.
got to explain it to him now.
Terrifier. That black and white clown that you're seeing everywhere now with a little tiny hat and the black dot in the nose and
So
I have the image.
yeah.
You know, but
So what makes him in your top 5?
He's fucking psycho. Like, if you watch the movies, like they're very B cinema, but they grabbed such a huge cult following now, and they were brutal. Like they were some of the most brutal kills I've seen in a horror movie in a long time. So I mean I love the character. He didn't speak, so it was just that much creepier. So
clowns do make a very specific good villain.
That's ironic you say that because my top 5, my number 5 is Pennywise,
nice.
That's
and the only reason, and I'm not even talking the new Pennywise because I've never actually seen the new It movies.
Yeah.
Really, I hear they're really good.
They are good, but they're not that good. And the original was much better in my opinion. So.
The old one, I remember watching it as a kid, and I couldn't sleep for like weeks. There was a scene where the dog attacks them, and there was a whole group of us sitting here watching this in a basement with the lights off, and this fucking cat jumped out of nowhere at the same time with this dog, and it literally scarred me for life.
Nice.
Okay, like this kid like peed his pants, literally peed his pants. He was so scared by this goddamn cat, and like Pennywise in that movie has like, I still can't think of that movie. I don't think I could actually finish a full watch through of it today, just because he's so scary.
I've never been coulrophobic, so I enjoyed it immensely. Also, a Stephen King fan, but at the same time, he never struck that chord with me. So,
just a question on that. Is there a preference to which Pennyworth from the movie, or is it just a character or Pennywise?
Well, it would be the '90s Pennywise for me.
Oh, so Tim Curry.
So Tim
Yeah,
Curry.
the Tim Curry one. Tim Curry's a national treasure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
He looks so awful, and I feel so bad.
Oh, I know. He's doing some voiceover work, which is cool. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
He's been doing voiceover work for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure Corey knows this. Like, he was originally the Joker, right? Have we talked about
Mhm.
this already?
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah. We have talked about this.
my turn?
Your
Yeah.
turn?
I'm probably going to cause the most deviation from the obvious horror. Defining horror, if it scared me and if it horrified me, I'd call it a horror. So,
You don't get to pick the Muppets here, okay? Like,
And-
I'm sure
Or the Goonies.
Muppets are creepy.
Annie Wilkes.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
great on, Jeff. You look confused.
I don't think I know. Tell me who Annie Wilkes is.
Misery.
Yeah.
Makes his character.
Oh!
Steve, I have to give you that one because it is a Stephen King
And
novel.
Stephen King is a
So
horror
I
author, so
have to give you that one.
Yeah, but that doesn't make Stand By Me a horror movie.
That was written under his freaking alias, so that
What
doesn't
about
count.
Shawshank Redemption? Is
Written
Shawshank-
under his alias.
Yeah.
it's just like Desperation and the Regulars. One was
Right.
Richard Bachman, one was Stephen King. You put the
Exactly.
two covers of the books together, it's one image,
It is.
but it's a regular image.
But
and,
Desperation was Stephen King and Regulators was Stephen Bachman.
I
Or
do-
Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard
I do
Bachman.
feel like Misery falls under that thriller more than the horror.
I would agree. It leans more on that, but it.
She's scary as hell.
And that's the point. What horrifies me is the thought process that she goes through to do the things that she needs to do to get her way, and the length in which she goes, and the ability. Kudos to what's her name, Kathy Bates,
yeah.
to present that on film in this flowery, beautiful idea of I love this character to how fucking dare you do that to her, and that's my number 5.
She was well written, again, Stephen King. She was well acted. To this day, you see a picture of Kathy Bates with a sledgehammer, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the look. Just
It's
the
not
look on her
fried green
face.
tomatoes.
Yeah.
Right? All right.
All right.
Laura, your number 4?
It's Freddy.
Nice.
My number 4.
Freddy's at number 4.
Freddy is number 4 for me.
Oh, I expected Freddy to be a little higher up on your list.
Well, okay, let's be honest. For me, Freddy actually ties with like spot 1 to 4 for me.
Okay, so your 1 to 4 is just so tight.
It's just
It
4
is.
number 1s that had to
Yeah,
go somewhere.
okay.
It is, yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, no, Freddy. I mean, it's a classic.
Absolutely.
He is a classic. So
Freddy is that was we were talking about first. Freddy was my first experience at horror. I snuck downstairs when my cousin was watching it at 5 years old, and I fell in love with it. I've been watching horror ever since.
see,
I love Freddy. Now, don't get me wrong. Friday the 13th. Jason was my first, but I think it's far lesser of a character than Freddy.
Yeah,
Freddy
is Jason's so.
Well, there are
Like-
3 Jasons. There is 1 Robert Englund.
right?
I mean, we don't count the remake.
Agreed.
The
We don't
remake,
count the
it
remake.
does not exist
No.
at all.
I mean, I love Jackie Earle Haley, but no.
He was great in Watchmen, but
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was.
But Watchmen's its own thing. Do not mess with A Nightmare on Elm
Yeah.
Street.
that was such an.
There's talks
iconic
about Mike
character.
Flanagan, the one who's been directing all the Stephen King stuff lately, like Doctor Sleep and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he might be wanting to dive into redoing a Freddy.
So it was actually stated by Robert Englund after the remake. He actually came out and said if I knew what they were going to screw up my character so bad, I would have just kept playing him.
The rumor that Mike Flanagan wants for Freddy, and Robert Englund has actually apparently given his blessing already, is Kevin Bacon.
Oh, I would be so on board for that.
I feel like that's a little
See,
late in the game. Like, I hate to be an ageist, but like, I don't need Kevin Bacon being the new star of a big franchise.
But
Yeah,
here's
let's say
here's
they
the
make a
thing with
franchise,
it is Kevin Bacon has the facial structure for the makeup.
Does anyone remember Hollow Man at all?
Yes.
Yeah, terrible movie. But Kevin Bacon was a really good, scary guy in that movie, right? Even though, like,
R.I.P.D.
Okay, let's not talk about that one.
See, I do have issues with celebrity casting on a very big note, and I have personal distaste towards casting such and such a name because he's a name, which is like hypocritical considering I came from the 80s and
But
we
see,
didn't care what Schwarzenegger did
Kevin
next. We just
Bacon
wanted Schwarzenegger.
they're not hiring Kevin Bacon because it's Kevin Bacon. They're hiring him because he's got the looks.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
I feel like they could, like, there's gotta be
Yeah.
who was that guy that played the Scarecrow? I feel like he could.
Which one?
Cillian
Like-
Murphy?
Cillian, yeah.
Yeah, Cillian
Oh,
Murphy.
yeah.
I feel like he might be able to do it, right? But because he's got.
But
the look
it's-
for it.
Really, Scarecrow's the fallback? They just made $1 billion with Oppenheimer and you fall back to Scarecrow?
Haven't seen Oppenheimer yet.
Either have I, but I knew Cillian Murphy was
How
right,
did
so...
we do a podcast about Barbie and not a podcast about Oppenheimer?
Yeah, we should have done Barbenheimer, so...
You should have done
Barbara, your turn, Corey.
All right.
Then I would have been sad because I missed that. Anyway.
So my number 4, also kind of cliched, but just basically sheer well-known factor, and Mike, you would appreciate this, Jason Voorhees.
Yeah.
To this day, he's never really, in my opinion, had a great movie, but he is a well-known horror character to this day.
What, are you
So-
saying Jason X isn't a great movie?
Jason X
Jason
was
X
awful.
sucked.
I actually liked Jason Goes to Hell Part 8. And it had the ending where they teased the Freddy versus Jason, but it was...
Yeah, that's
I
the
thought
one
it
where the
was-
mask
Yeah.
get pulled.
And-
That was
yeah.
an awesome show.
And then it didn't happen until like fucking 10 years later. So
At least they still made it. But Jason X is an abomination that should never have been made.
I actually went to the theater to see that.
So did I and fell asleep. It was great money.
Actually, I want to say it was probably Friday the 13th, Part 3 was my first. And then I had to go back and what the hell was this first one
I
about?
would say that was the
Who
Corey
the hell is
Feldman
in
one, but no,
that?
Corey
Yeah.
Feldman was in the fourth one.
What's that?
Corey Feldman was in the fourth one.
Yes.
Corey Feldman was in a Friday the 13th movie.
Kevin
Yes.
Bacon was in the first one.
He
Yeah.
was.
Oh, I do remember that,
Yeah.
actually.
Very, 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 very young Kevin Bacon.
The third one's the first one with the mask, isn't it?
Yes.
Because
Because the first one was the mother, the second one was the
bird.
burlap sack, the
Yeah.
third one is where he got the mask.
Yeah.
And it was one of the guys who was wearing it, and he kills him and then he
Yeah.
takes the mask. So.
Yeah.
I don't know how far past number 3 I ever made it with like the original. I know I didn't make it to Manhattan.
There's
But
there's
then-
things that like I said, I'm partial to Freddy or Friday the 13th and Jason. I don't necessarily think they're brilliant or good or but they're enjoyable and fun.
Sometimes you just gotta enjoy dumb movies.
Yeah, and I agree with
Well,
that.
generally speaking, and I mean, I may get my head chopped off for this, but a slasher flick is generally not a good movie, but they're fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Except
So
for the Scream movies. Scream movies are good movies.
they're not. I mean, they had some poor entries, but
Yeah,
They did.
yeah.
I
Well,
even
they
enjoyed
have
6,
6
so
entries now. So of
I
course
enjoyed 6. I'm not gonna lie. So
On to me. This one might surprise you guys. The Creeper from Jeepers Creepers.
wow.
Okay.
Guess because Jeepers Creepers is one of my favorite horror movies. If I had to like,
Poor Justin Long.
oh
Right.
yeah,
But I have to give you that because honestly, I do like the Jeepers Creepers movies, except for the newest one. Again,
oh, I haven't seen the.
don't
I-
even watch it.
I've only ever
I-
watched the first one.
I think I saw the second one. And I was like, this is kind of rubbish, but I really liked the first one.
Number 1 was good. 2 was okay. 3 is
Peepers, creepers, where'd you get
Those
those peepers?
Man, like, how do they just like make an old song like that get so creepy in there? And like when they finally see him and he's like eating that skull, like they finally get a good man, oh, so creepy.
And the part where they, spoiler, finally kill Justin Long.
and he rips his eyes.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
show it from like the point of his view of his eyes where it's hollowed out, and then you see him.
Oh,
So
the creeper's like looking through the eye sockets. Yeah.
Mike, you're number 4.
Okay. Yes. I feel like I'm looking for Laura's approval. She'll give us that one. She'll give me that one. Corey hasn't spoke up yet, so. Okay. I'm probably gonna get looks and judgment on this one too, but again, it scared the shit out of me. John Doe from 7.
nice.
Oh, creepy movie.
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin Spacey. I mean, it's just.
Kevin Spacey, I mean, take his personal crap out,
Yeah.
out the window. He's an incredible actor. So,
Oh, absolutely.
When we were thinking about just doing villains, I was just like Kevin Spacey. Just like,
not the character, the actor.
yeah, I guess the actor just like.
he was Lex Luthor in Superman Returns.
And he did a great job
Yeah.
too. Mm,
Anytime he plays a villain, like
yeah.
John Doe, Kaiser Soze, Lex Luthor, like he's such a good villain.
Yeah, no, he's good, and I think for me it's that the plotting out so deviously, so criminally, so grotesquely. You know, what's in the box? You know, to go that far, and all for your own suicide type thing. You
Gwyneth
know,
Paltrow's greatest movie.
yeah,
Especially because the ending.
yeah.
I can
Yeah.
honestly say I didn't finish watching 7.
Really, like the ending is like the most famous part of
Do
it.
you know the ending?
No.
Okay, let's not spoil it first. You should
Yeah,
watch it.
I'm never going to watch it.
You should watch
I
it.
got bored 15 minutes into it and got up and walked away.
Oh, I agree. It's a slow burn,
It's David Fincher. Of course it's...
but it has such a great cast.
Yeah,
You know, it's like Brad Pitt when he's prime. It's
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. There's not a bad Morgan Freeman out there that I know of.
I'm trying to think of a bad Morgan Freeman
Red 2.
Red, yeah.
You know,
But he wasn't the
Maybe.
main character in that one.
No, but he was over the top in that one, which for him is weird because he's not generally over the top. So
was he in Evan Almighty too? Because that was a bad.
Yes.
no, well, yeah, of course he was.
Yeah,
He was God.
Yeah.
He's
But
always
it
God.
wasn't- I knew he was in the first one, but I didn't know if he was in the second.
Yeah.
Just like Evan was actually technically in Bruce Almighty.
Yes.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Evan was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like a
one
completely
of the
different
newcomers.
character, even though it was the same character.
Yeah, he was still Evan.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Where are we?
Back to
We're
me.
on to Laura, number 3.
The Leprechaun.
Haha.
I thought about Leprechaun fell off my list, but Leprechaun scared the piss out of me when I was a kid.
See, I didn't find those ones scary. They were hilarious.
Yeah, they were.
But, you know,
But especially the
Yes.
older entries, like the older.
right. So what makes that one?
What? Not Leprechaun in space?
Oh my God!
They actually had that one?
Yeah,
Yes.
they had a leprechaun in
So-
space.
Pretty much the only reason that he's going to be on my list for that one actually boils down to the makeup,
Mhm.
Oh,
because
Practical
Yeah.
makeup is always the best.
I disagree with that in a fundamental way. It is primarily preferred, but I've seen some practical stuff that has failed.
yes.
Well, that's probably because of your profession.
Well, it hardly do.
Or the time period.
And see, I can justify practical makeup from a '70s movie and an '80s movie, but nowadays, when you have the option and you want to go that far, practical has to take a sidestep.
Yeah.
Now, I don't prefer CGI. I prefer practical, but there's a point at which you got to make that choice.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. I think we were talking about Gremlins with that, how it started out with puppetry only, then it turned into green screen and puppetry.
Yeah.
I think, I read this thing actually yesterday, I think it
The
was, that they're
stop
talking
motion,
about...
I didn't like the stop motion
Yeah.
in Gremlins. And I'm not.
It was
I'm not
stop motion on a green screen is what it was, so...
In the '70s and early '80s, you liked it because it's all you got.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Right?
And you didn't question it. You're like, well, of course it's not real. But now it's like, oh, that looks fake. I'm like, yes, you're right. There's a real one of those hanging around.
Laura, I gotta ask you a leprechaun question.
Mhm.
Okay, I remember him having like a race car or something in one of the movies. Did that really happen? Or was that a fever dream of mine?
No. So that is. Trying to remember which one it is. I
It's like
haven't
the
watched them in a
Flash having
couple
a
years.
race car.
Yeah, but why did the Flash have a
So-
race car?
That's like the first one where he puts like the pitchforks and everything on the
thought-
front of
I thought it was
it.
either like the first one or the second one, but I was just like, did that really happen?
No, it
And I think it was
happens.
part 3 that had Jennifer Aniston.
I was-
Part one.
Wait,
No,
Jennifer
part
Aniston
one.
was in Leprechaun?
Part one, Jennifer Aniston is the female lead in Leprechaun 1.
That's
well,
what I was going
really?
to ask, because when you say Leprechaun, the first thing I think of is Jennifer Aniston. If I had time to watch all these movies, I would have gone back and researched and reintegrated my brain, and my list might have been different. But Leprechaun was
And
always
quick, what was Courtney Cox's first movie?
first movie.
Yeah.
It was Scream, was it?
No.
No. She was on a music video first.
Well, I had Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah,
yes,
Bruce
but that's
Springsteen.
not that.
Oh, I'm going to say, yeah, that's right, as soon as you tell me.
Anybody?
I feel like I know this answer, yet I can't think of it.
Masters of the Universe.
Yes,
Oh.
I did see a little clip on that.
Who was she in Masters?
She was the main girl, the girlfriend of the main guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that's like me not realizing. You know, I think back now. I think the new promotional stuff for Leprechaun has like, oh, it's got Jennifer Aniston in it now. So,
Yeah,
like,
back
when I
then people were like,
watched-
who?
Yeah,
Which,
Jennifer Aniston
amazingly
was
enough, if you look at the original artwork, it is her face in the Leprechaun.
Yeah.
That's what I see when you say that.
Side note: we need to do Masters of the Universe. Okay.
I have it.
80s is our jam. 80s is our jam, and like
I've got it on
There's
DVD,
nothing
not Blu-ray,
more
but I have it on
80s.
DVD. So,
Corey, you're
where were we
number
at?
three.
Number three.
3.
This one was fun for me. Johnny Bartlett.
I don't think you're gonna have to remind me who Johnny Bartlett is.
God, I know the name. I just can't picture it.
I'm like pulling a complete blank today. I know exactly what movie it is.
Before Lord of the Rings, there was The Frighteners.
Oh!
Peter
Oh my
Jackson.
God!
Oh,
The
yeah.
Color Frightener starring Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
So this is where Dave would agree with you. I do not think Frighteners is a horror movie at all. It is a comedy.
Yeah.
With ghosts and.
Right.
But either way, Johnny
It's called
Bartlett
The
played
Frighteners. I've never
by
actually.
Jake Busey, who is phenomenal in that movie. And what I really liked about it is you could call it a typical Hollywood slasher flick, but the story with Johnny Bartlett is he decided he wanted to one up the famous serial killers in the world. So he went to a hospital and he pulled out a shotgun and he started killing people. And his girl would carve the number in their forehead to make him like 12 was the record for amount of people slain. So they would carve like 13 in the forehead of the next person and all this stuff. And he would count up his body so he could be the highest killing serial killer. And so when he died, because they fried him, he came back as a ghost, and he would carve the numbers into the foreheads of the people he would choose. But only like Michael J. Fox, who could see these ghosts, could see these numbers, and nobody knew what the numbers meant. And then he realized he was continuing his count so he could be the most prolific serial killer ever. And it was a really incredible nod. And I mean, again, Peter Jackson.
And
So-
anybody who's ever actually watched that movie too, he worked at the hospital. His
Yeah,
girl just
he was an
happened to be the
orderly, yeah.
doctor's daughter,
Yeah.
and continues on with the whole thing with him.
Okay, so my number 3, and I guess there's a little bit of room to debate this one. Laura's just foaming at the mouth over there.
We're all just like pounce mode. We're like a cat with our ass in the air and our tail wagging. So,
The Jigsaw character.
oh,
Okay.
Kramer.
yeah.
Yeah, he is like he's not your conventional terrifying, but he's such an interesting character.
But you know he didn't kill anybody, right?
Everybody killed
That's the
themselves.
best part.
Yeah, that's what makes him so interesting.
He's like the
and-
Charles Manson of torture porn.
Well, actually, you could also argue it's like Batman never killed anybody; he just didn't save them. It's
Well,
the same
yeah,
scenario.
It's like he didn't kill that guy, but he's never going to walk again. His jaw's probably shattered.
They put him
and-
in a mechanism that will kill him.
yeah, but he didn't kill him.
Right? It's not his fault that they couldn't get out of the chair in time and their scalp got
Take a
ripped off.
punch.
Right?
You've trained like 100 different styles of martial arts in your body's a peak human thing. Punching random robbers in the face. Oh, how did that guy die? Oh, I didn't kill him. Yes, I hear your argument there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But John Kramer's a good choice. I'm on board with that.
But he's of horror characters, and you can debate whether or not Saw is a horror movie or not.
It's torture porn.
It's torture porn, but like probably one of the most fascinating villains. And you could make an
I'm actually
argument.
going to the new movie rate like in the next few
I
years or so.
hear it's really good.
It's the best one in the series I heard. I actually went to off topic. I went to the new Exorcist movie the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, off topic. Sorry.
Does it tie into the old one?
Yes.
Hmm.
Very, 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 very.
I will
much
go
so.
watch this one.
Does it tie into the second one?
No. Hopefully
Nobody cares
not.
about the second.
Like, or the third.
I honestly didn't like the sequels much myself either, and I never bothered with the prequels. But this is it's the David Gordon Green treatment, so it's basically a sequel to Part 1, and it's taking place in modern day now, so it's really well done. So
Before we get too far off the rails, Mike, let's hear your number 3.
I'm gonna call this list in no random order because everyone is really good for different aspects. I'm gonna drop this one to this point because it's the same guy, John Kramer.
Okay.
For Saw. I saw 10, and it's phenomenal. I think in my mind, there's 3 really, really strong movies that have strong stories, strong elements that should not be even considered into a lower budget element. And that's 10, 1, and Spiral. I really liked that one with Rock.
Mhm.
I don't know if I
Chris
saw
Rock.
Chris
Spiral.
Rock.
Was that?
Chris Rock, yeah.
And now that wasn't John Kramer, but I mean, you want to argue the franchise, fine. But as far as characters, John Kramer, that element of morality, of justifiable reasons. I think he presents that really well and with really creative ideas.
See, I always thought 4 and 6 were my second favorites after the first one because they delved into his backstory, and I really enjoyed that.
So I did like those two.
I gotta agree with you, like with 4 and 6, and I like 3 quite a bit too.
3 was okay. 2 was awful in my opinion. 2 was just torture porn for the sake of torture porn and no story moving forward.
And that's where I felt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost felt like everyone says one's one of the best, but I almost felt like it was like the weakest until like the last 5 minutes of that movie. Like when he gets up out of the corner there, like he was there the whole time. He's like,
Yeah.
Oh, but it was worth the payoff. That element of it was so worth it, you know.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's So I got to go with that as well.
Laura,
Okay, so
we're getting it down to the nitty gritty.
we are. My second one is for a movie that's not well known in Canada.
Oh,
So
Is it
Let the
Canadian?
right one in.
no,
Damn it.
Is it Canadian?
no,
Okay.
actually. So the horror movie, or the villain's name is actually Captain Howdy. No, it's not The Exorcist. It's D. Snyder's Strangeland.
Wow.
I don't know if I've ever heard
Wow.
of that movie.
That
Like that D. Snyder?
That D. Snyder, Twisted
Really?
Sister. Yeah.
That's a dig and a half.
Right.
I was expecting Mike to go off the rails with something we've never heard of. And freaking
I
here's
was-
Laura pulling out this one.
Captain
Well-
Howdy. You gotta
So,
tell us Captain
okay,
Howdy.
the
'Cause
whole-
I feel like I know the name.
the whole
Captain
premise
Howdy was what Reagan called her demon in The Exorcist.
in The Exorcist.
Oh yeah.
So-
yeah.
Strangeland, the whole premises of this movie is teenage kids going online, they're talking with people. This cyber stalker, basically, his online name is Captain Howdy. He invites him to a party.
Which
They
I'm sure
go.
is where they got it from, but yeah.
Yes. I mean, they go. He obviously abducts them. And then it just all spirals downhill from there. Like, you actually see, like, with D. Snyder and everything, him having to put on makeup to cover up the tattoos on his body, everything. Overall, if you have kids that you don't want to talk online, show them this movie. It'll freak them the hell out. Right?
When was this made? Is like this a pretty recent movie?
No, this one was made.
Like it must be in the at
He's
least
talking
2000s.
online, so
Yeah, first time I saw it was obviously 2000s, but it's for the longest time you could not get it in Canada.
If only we knew somebody in a video store.
Oh, or just come look at my video shelf because I own it.
Yeah, weird owning movies. Who does that?
Right? What the hell? Your turn, Corey.
My number 2 is already been mentioned, but I will stick to it as well due to my sheer love, and that was Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger at number 2.
Number 2. To this day, they haven't made a Freddy Krueger movie since 2010, and that was the awful remake. Before that was 1997 was New Nightmare, I believe.
New Nightmares.
New Nightmare is incredible,
Yeah.
What?
absolutely incredible, and it was
It's the least
fourth
Freddy
wall
of
breaking before fourth wall breaking was cool, and
I still question whether it is cool.
I hate to see your opinion on She-Hulk.
That's
That's
night.
another conversation. Anyway, no, Freddy Krueger, to this day, everybody knows who Freddy Krueger is. Everybody knows Don't Fall Asleep. It was only, honestly, I feel in the last 15 years that everybody's like, that was Johnny Depp in the first movie?
Well, see, that was
Yeah,
my favorite
right.
part. He
Yeah.
killed Johnny Depp. But I wish that was
And
reality.
Johnny
We
Depp
had-
wore a crop top in
We
that
had
movie.
to explain to Jeff that, yes, it was Johnny Depp, and we even went into detail on how he dies.
Fun fact, in Freddy's Dead, which is my guilty pleasure movie, it's the one that's like probably the worst one, but I enjoy it immensely.
Number 2 is the worst.
You're right, number 2 is terrible.
I don't think I've actually
I
seen
generally, if
that.
I'm going to marathon it, I skip 2.
Me too.
But either way,
Well, does 2 start off in a school bus?
yes.
Yes.
I have seen that.
In Freddy's Dead, Breckin Meyer's in it. I love Breckin Meyer. He played John in the Garfield movies. He's in Rat Race. He's getting stoned and he's watching this TV, which there's nothing on TV. He's seeing these psychedelic things, and all of a sudden Johnny Depp goes on the screen and it's like, last time, this is your brain on drugs. Any questions? And Breckenmeyer rolls his eyes and everything because he's heard it before. Bottom line is, in the credits, the character on the TV was credited as Oprah Noodle Mantra. He never gave his name. He did it for free, and he never gave his name for it. But everybody who knew it, everybody who knew Johnny Depp knew it was Johnny Depp, but he never credited himself. He did it as a gag. So, and then it's funny because he said, "This your brain, drug." A question. All of a sudden, Freddy appears out of nowhere and clocks him in the head with the frying pan. He's like, "Yeah, what are you on? Looks like some eggs to me." Anyway.
I
love the Freddy movies.
I love Freddy as the most creative element. You know, you talk about supernatural, but he had the most practical process with the finger claws, so iconic, and the hat, the shirt. It sends images. I did him as Halloween for many years, and I had the claws.
I bought the sweater from Spencer's back in the day, so I have the actual sweater.
I convinced Alan to go out decked out as Freddy. So
do you remember at the theater when I did the Nightmare on Elm Street nights?
Yes.
I actually had a mannequin there, and I dressed it up in the Freddy garb, and I actually auctioned off an original movie poster and everything like that. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah, Freddy is my favorite slasher movie villain. We'll say that because I still have my number one to go.
The burn aspect is also a phobia. You know, it's one of those things of all the ways. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
He also has some very classic one-liners.
He created one-liners in villains.
He is he's probably the one-line villain of all one-timers.
Anyway, Jeff.
So my number 2, I'm really shocked hasn't been said already, and I don't have enough to say about him, even though he's at my number 2. Chucky. And I really expected Laura to have already said Chucky.
Chucky's a guilty pleasure of mine. My problem with Chucky is it's a doll, punt.
Right? So,
You know,
the Annabelle doll was
we
creepier.
talked about Freddy. Chucky, in mine, is like the only behind Freddy in personality. Only behind Freddy. Like, he is... I really like the older ones where What's-Her-Pickle starts getting into them. Like the other... What is that girl's name? Who plays the doll? Like Bride of Chucky and Son of Chucky. I love all that stuff. Yes, I know you have them all. Is that the series or is that the...
No, that's the from part 1 all the way to Curse of Chucky.
Yeah. And I love how more outlandish he gets. Like,
well, Brad Dourif is a freaking amazing actor. I don't know if you saw it. I rented from our library the One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest, which is I love, but I never owned. And I watched it again, and that was Brad Dourif's first movie. And he was incredible in that movie. He's been amazing in everything he does, albeit corny sometimes, but he's a believable psycho. And so for him lending his voice to a doll and yet still being freaky, that says a lot. Because it's the voice actor who makes Chucky scary, not Chucky.
So like you said, Corey, it's a doll. Punt.
Yeah.
But the whole concept of that one is it's not the adults that Chucky's after. That one is more to scare children.
well,
Not saying that you're
especially in the first 3 movies, like he's so terrifying that your toy just came to life, right? Like, well, the parents aren't believing me. No, it's evil, right? Like,
see, yeah, Chucky never really struck me that way. I get the concept, but I see Chucky and I think of is it Small Soldiers? So there's their toys, and it's just like
it's the personality why he rates so high for me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones put off a pretty good shit ass.
He does. He does. But Small Soldiers cannot be counted as a horror movie.
I know.
And you're number 2?
Okay. My fluid list. I keep thinking of better ones I want on here, but we'll stick to my. I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna go with again. You might debate this, but Hannibal Lecter.
Debate?
No. Okay. Applause.
I get your approval.
You have our
I almost had him
approval.
on my list. Except for, again, I never consider those horror movies.
Yeah, those are
That one's a
criminal-
crime.
criminal thriller
But-
movies.
But I agree that Hannibal Lecter is one of the best movie villains
Yes.
of all time.
Yeah, and I found it difficult not to have him, like I say, the horrific level. And for me, the psychology of the killer, of the villain, is so more
right
important.
there.
We talk about Jason or Michael Myers. Yeah, they're hackers and slashers, and they're creative to a degree. But the depth in
I
which
mean,
Hannibal
most-
Lecter...
Most slashers are not creative,
See,
yeah.
and-
So.
And when you're going movie definition, Silence of the Lambs is defined as a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
So, applause. You're
But-
no.
Hey, have you ever read the books at all?
No, I
I read Red
dyslexic,
Dragon. I
remember?
didn't read Silence of the Lambs, but I read Red Dragon, and it was incredible.
And
Yeah.
Red Dragon was much better than the movie.
Yeah.
I
Thomas
never did-
Harris.
And Hannibal was much better than the movie
Oh,
as
the
well.
movie Hannibal was terrible.
It was.
Hannibal Rising was okay,
Hannibal
but
the book
cliche.
was really good, actually.
I
Except for the ending.
I despise the comparison to books and movies. I don't like that. I don't ever, because the
But
book
the
is your visuals, all your personal visuals, and the guy next to you could have it completely different and love it just as much. And that's when the movie is, who's the director of the movie? It's his visuals.
Yeah. I actually
So-
watch the movies first, then read the book, so that the visual in my head is now the actor and not
It's
my thought.
hard not to picture, because like the original, I think the original was called Manhunter.
It was.
Who was in it? I remember.
Tom Noonan played Hannibal Lecter,
Yeah.
and freaking William Peterson,
Yeah,
Gil
from
Grissom from
CSI,
CSI,
yeah.
played the FBI guy after him. Will something.
It-
Oh, I would have
So-
liked that.
It was a very different Hannibal Lecter, yet it was still quite
That
good.
said, Edward Norton and Ralph Fiennes, or Rafe Fiennes, was incredible in Red Dragon. So
Yeah. No, I love that you said that. The idea that it's still a good movie, and that idea in theater. I want to do a simultaneous production of something, whatever, with another company, and you can be totally different and still be just as brilliant.
See,
And
and
I love that idea.
Like the same production of the same thing,
Yes.
only different views.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do like that idea. I've heard of that idea.
but that's theater in a nutshell.
Well, and this is the crossover. These are where the crossovers come. Many workshops I've been into, you're handed a 3-page script. You and one or two others go off, and then you come back and you perform this 2-minute play.
Like a
and they are-
multiverse of theater.
The same lines, and you come back, and the subtext and the creative nature that's so completely different. And out of 10 shows, 5 of them are just as brilliant as the other 5. The other 5 all go sexual. One of the sexual ones always ends up really. Actually, that was well thought out. But, and that's the idea. It's like, I like the idea that Pinocchio, done by this guy, was brilliant. And then Pinocchio by Guillermo del Toro
Oh,
was
boy.
just as brilliant, but it was so different. And I love that. But don't connect the two.
well, you can't with
Yeah.
those ones.
Exactly. So, anyway, that's. I love that idea that you can watch the same story. So.
Laura, let's start with your
Honorable mentions.
honorable
Honorable
mentions.
Right. So, my honorable mentions, I have 2.
Yeah, you're allowed.
Come
Okay.
on. Just kidding.
Oh, okay. Well, I can list the other 50 that go with them, but we're gonna go with the top 2. So there's Sammy
Sammy?
from Trick or Treat,
Sam.
It's like your
Sammy.
sister.
He
That's
was never
terrible.
Sammy. He was just Sam.
or Sam.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, if my sister's listening, she can be kind of scary too. And Pumpkinhead.
Nice. Well played.
Pumpkinhead forever.
Right.
Actually, he scrambled in my brain for a bit there too. So, yeah, nice. And I mean, I'm a huge Trick or Treat fan. In fact, when we do the rest of the month, we're doing classic horror movies, and by classic I mean my opinion of classics. So screw you all. Anyway, so second last movie to Halloween will be Trick or Treat because it's a quintessential Halloween movie. And of course, Halloween will be John Carpenter's Halloween. Not Rob Zombie's, not David Gordon Green's, but John Carpenter's Halloween.
I love John Carpenter.
Yeah.
I love his work.
I'm excited to watch that new show on whatever channel that's on now, AMC, I think, or Showtime or something like that. He's got a new TV show out.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
John Carpenter does?
Yeah, I'm
Really?
pretty excited. So, but yeah, I'm on board with Sam 120% of the time. So,
What's your honorable mentions, Corey?
my honor mention is Patrick Bateman.
From American Psycho?
Yes,
Oh. See, that's another one that's like tricky. Where it
exactly.
falls.
That's why he only hit honorable mention, because that movie could arguably not be horror, and in my definition is not horror, but he was Psycho. And Christian Bale played him to a T. So the shit he did in that movie was absolutely psycho. And watching his psyche slip into madness, going to a bank machine and having the bank machine tell him, "Feed me a stray cat." Like, he's losing his mind in that movie, and I love it.
And he got to kill Jared Leto.
Yeah,
Yes.
Batman killed the Joker.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul!
And I love his description of Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, as he goes
He's
through
like getting the little rain
Well,
jacket
if you read the book, which is a great book, Bret Easton Ellis, who's the author, he goes overboard. Like, every time he sees a new character in the book, he describes their wardrobe top to bottom. Even if it was like 5 minutes later, he'll re-describe the wardrobe top to bottom. And it got really annoying. However, in the book, interesting fact is he runs into Tom Cruise in the elevator, and Patrick Bateman runs into Tom Cruise, and he starts saying, "Oh, I loved your movie Bartender," and Tom Cruise corrected him, like, "No, it was called Cocktail." And Patrick Bateman almost killed him because he corrected him. So the book was interesting. It was a very short book. It was only like a novella, basically. But it was interesting. I ended up giving away to somebody else who wanted more of the book, so I don't own it anymore. But it was an interesting read. It got a little long in the tooth. So
my honorable mention is on my honorable mention list because of you two. The T-Rex.
Fucking dinosaur, dude.
Oh my god, seriously!
Jurassic Park is not a
Yeah.
horror.
No, it is not.
Wait a
Just-
minute.
no.
You're saying the T-Rex?
Yeah.
He was the hero at the end saved by the Velociraptors.
Well-
He's not even a man.
He killed a lawyer and he killed a raptor. That's all
Right?
he killed.
That's nothing but positive.
And when they're running away from the Velociraptor, when the truck has rolled over, tell me that's not a Jason moment. Like,
T-Rex, yeah.
No!
that's
No, because, like Mike said, he is the good guy. He's
I-
a lawyer.
I could see the Velociraptor was almost on here instead of the T-Rex.
And to
At the very.
Sorry, folks. This is going to be like a 2-hour podcast.
And to
now.
argue the T-Rex continued to be a hero in following movies.
He does.
He just got better and better.
Right.
Okay, so
And we wanted him to get married.
Except for when he killed the dog in part 2. That was
Okay, that's
sad.
only the bad part. But
okay, I'm only saying Jurassic Park is the only horror movie in the Jurassic Park.
it is not a horror movie.
It's not a
horror
No,
movie.
it's
It's
not.
Like,
So-
a guy gets spit with acid in his face.
Lovely listeners, just so you know, we are going to be doing a podcast. Do you want to do that?
Yes, he had it coming.
Do you want to do that in November? What genre is this?
I will do what genre is it.
Okay, so
Okay.
Interact. Wait, should we do a review on Jurassic Park and then do what?
Oh, totally.
yeah,
we
we'll do
can.
Jurassic
Yeah.
Park in week 1 of November.
Okay,
So.
okay.
But what we're doing is we're going to do a podcast called What Genre Is It? And we're going to list a movie and we're going to debate what genre is it, because Jeff doesn't know what a genre is, apparently. So
Remember how I always tell you that we can't be friends?
this is why. This is why we can't have nice things.
So, and my other honorable mention is sharks. Like, is sharks,
Okay, like, are we
You
talking like
Sharknado
Jaws?
Sharks?
Or
sharks in
Jaws
general,
itself?
like the sharks from Jaws and like the Sharknado sharks.
The only reason I'll let that pass is when you see my number 1. So you'll see the different iterations
you
as
have
well.
sharks as well.
No,
Okay,
I do
you
not.
know what? I will give you sharks because you didn't say piranha.
Yeah.
Deep blue sea.
Right.
Mike, your honorable mention.
Oh man, I'm gonna throw one in there just because You were talking about it, you mentioned it, and I really love the movie. A guilty pleasure. I love the guy in Tusk.
Yeah.
Which one? Michael Parks?
The old guy.
Yeah, Michael Parks.
Yeah. He, and you said Justin Long, and bang, Tusk. Oh my God, that was a terrifying and fantastic.
I love Kevin Smith, and I'm just kind of like, do I love Tusk or do I hate Tusk? I still don't know.
I'm still waiting for Moose Knuckles.
Moose Jaws.
Moose Jaws.
Which apparently isn't happening
After
now,
Yoga Hosers, I am okay with Moose. Like, I want to see Moose Jaws,
Yeah.
but like Yoga Hosers was.
Did I tell you that I
terrible.
met Jessica Leone? Or Natasha Leone, sorry. The girl who plays the one mother in it. Because remember, Jen played the one mother. And Natasha Leone, she's from American Pie. She played Jessica. That's why I said Jessica. She plays the mother, and I met her. And I asked her, I said, would you be willing to do the next movie? And she laughed at me and said no.
Wow.
Yeah, not even subtle about
Wow.
it. So,
She just laughed.
Because she's doing so much.
yeah. Well, she's got her own market, but she's very much a feminist / women's rights /
But it's funny because she was in the American Pie movies.
Yeah.
And in honorable mentions, I threw that one in because it just reminded me of that. And I got to put Jason Voorhees and all these
As an
the slashers.
eh?
I really love them, and I really like. But as you can see, my mind is going to these people with the depth of the psychology, and that's my choice.
Well, I think one of these ones we're going to do top 5 thriller, top 5 comedy antagonists, we're going to do a lot of top 5s as we go on.
And I think that's a great idea, but I think there has to be a written, defined definition of a genre. So I think you need to do genres first.
Well, that's why next month's fun topic is going to be what genre is it?
No.
Is it?
In all fairness, so genre is defined basically by the directors, producers, all that crap. But really, a genre is how you would define it, except for Jeff. Because his opinion is wrong.
This is
Watch
Ron's
the
opinion,
last half of that
boys and
movie,
girls, and
guys.
Jeff's opinion does not matter.
I like a certain amount of rules, just a guideline.
Yeah, we're not.
I don't
gonna
like
give a
rules.
guideline.
We're not good with it.
We'll do guidelines, sure, but we won't do rules here.
I mean,
So,
Corey likes Frighteners. I think it's a comedy.
Yeah.
it's funny. Absolutely, it's funny, but it's still a horror movie.
But it's a comedy horror, not a horror comedy.
See, I could go on a tangent on this, but the comedic element is irrelevant to genre to a certain level, right?
I can get behind that.
Because
So
again,
some
comedy is
movies-
subjective.
So it's, that too, but we look at Marvel is comedies that have superhero elements, where where you want a superhero element with some comedy,
But see,
and then you argue that.
But Marvel is actually classified as a sci-fi action comedy.
See, I define it purely as comedy. Superficial, lowbrow, ridiculously poorly run comedy.
We are going to have a fight on our hands.
Anyway,
Right, so my top, or number one, because I can't say top. Jeff,
You
you've already
can say top.
It's a big word.
It is. You've actually already mentioned him. Is Pennywise.
Oh, see, I thought Chucky was going to be your number one.
Nope.
No, anyways.
It's Pennywise. So it was the first movie I ever watched for a horror movie. Absolute first.
Traumatized you as a child, right?
Nope. Out of 5 kids, I'm the only one who still loves clowns. The creepier, the better.
I was 11 years old when that movie came on TV, so
Right? So for me, it was, we watched that movie. Mom didn't want us to. We watched it anyway. Then we went to the circus the next day, and the clown kept freaking out my siblings. I loved it.
I read it when I was 10 years old, and it was 1,092 pages. The number is committed to my memory. 1,092 pages hardcover. I read it during school, during recesses, during everything. It took me 5 days to read 1,092 pages because I was so enthralled by that book.
I'm actually reading it now. Soft cover, it's 1,157.
Yeah, I've got the soft cover now. So.
Right? And it's amazing how much both the miniseries and the new movies differ from each other with some similarities to the book, but there's a lot of differences.
I appreciated the new one for having Adrian Mellon in the opening scene there. However, I'm glad neither movie touched on the gangbang because nobody needed that.
Yeah, no, there's that. Now, if you're going based on who played Pennywise the best, it's Tim Curry, hands down. Now, costume-wise, the newer ones are somewhat.
He's creepy as hell.
He's creepy, yes,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
don't
the
think he
costume.
was supposed to be. He was supposed to be. Kids would be attracted to him
Yes.
because he was.
Yeah.
Teeth, eh?
It's teeth.
I don't know.
But no, it is. The kids are supposed to feel
safe around him.
When
he's in his clown form.
But it's like, I think the biggest difference, and I don't usually do spoiler alerts, but it's how Georgie dies.
They did that better in the new one, for sure.
But it's wrong. It is 100% wrong.
How does Georgie die in the comic?
In the book? Okay, so in both of them, so the originals, you vaguely get the idea of it ripping Georgie's arm off. The newer ones, you see it. Neither one of them do they actually grab Georgie. Georgie is left in the middle of the street.
No.
Yes.
In the new one, the big, long, it overextends arm pulls him into the sewer.
Yes. In the book, Georgie is left in the middle of the street and the neighbor actually comes out to him.
Oh, I thought you meant something else. Sorry.
No.
I thought you meant in the movie he didn't grab him.
No.
Yes, he did.
In the movie, he grabs him. In the book, he does not. They actually buried the body. All of the kids are actually found as well.
I feel like that would have been more traumatizing. That's probably why they didn't keep that in the movie.
They should have. Same with finding Betty and all of them. How they actually describe Betty being found is
Very
gruesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't talk much on. I've seen the first one, but I think it's very valuable. What you don't see is just as important as what you do, even in a movie.
Which is what made the miniseries so good, is because it was 1990. There was very little budget for special effects. It was made for TV miniseries, and it was network television, so obviously there's going to be a lot more censored.
Yeah.
And they still did a lot of, you didn't see it, but you knew what was happening. Whereas the new movie, hey, we got a budget, let's show everything. Well, that's not the answer either. So.
And I think where it would have been better for me is in both of them. So they mention Betty.
Yeah.
But they don't. All they say is, she was a girl in my class.
Although, did they mention her in the original?
They don't mention her in the original
No,
at
I
all.
didn't think so. Okay.
So, now, where it would have been better for me is, they say, she's missing. What they should have been saying is, they just found her body.
Yeah, in the
they
movie,
just found.
In the new movie, they just found her shoe.
They only found her shoe.
And in that scene where they go into that 2 to 3 doors, and the one they find her body, but it wasn't actually her body. It was just a sight gag.
Well,
right.
No. I think you say she's missing. They found her body. They found part of her body.
Right.
And you don't have to see it the minute you hear those, and I love that.
Right. So, that would have made it better for me if they actually added those elements. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm loving the book. Love the movies. Tim Curry is still my ultimate favorite for Pennywise.
I don't I loved the original movie because it was like, here's the kids, and, but there's the adults type thing. Whereas in the second movie, it's split up 50-50. In the book, it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So much,
which is typical Stephen King writing.
Because you'll read chapter 1, blah, blah, blah. Also, chapter 2 is like modern time. Right. Chapter 3, old time.
But then, even in the book, it does the interludes with Mike Hanlon.
Yeah, Hanlon.
Or Hanlon, yeah. So that would have been, to me, even if that was in the movies, that would have been better too.
Yeah.
Because it's his thought process on what he should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting when they do that. That can be very difficult to follow when they jump back and forth.
Totally.
Especially visually, too.
Yep.
When it's, if you want to do that artistic, where as an adult you're wearing these colors, as a kid you wear the same colors, so there's a connection there. But that's tough to do.
Well, they...
There's a lot of mainstream audience from doing that, right? I think that the new one, I think it was the right choice to divide it up the way they did, right?
And the way that they divided it is fine. That's completely fine.
But yeah.
But they still should have, when they're bringing up all these sub-characters, should have been body was
the one thing I appreciate in the original, and again, it was time constraints, and it was the time of the decade it was in, everything. The fact that they didn't talk about the ritual of Chud, Honestly, they didn't need it. I think when they added it to the newer movies, it was a terrible, stupid, pointless waste of time. But if you read the book, you're like, oh, hey, it's in there. And then the turtle thing, they didn't talk turtles at all in the first movie. He was huge in the book. There's a long, like, astral plane existence story with the turtles and Pennywise.
Yeah.
But in the book, in the new movie, they have Georgie making a turtle out of Lego. And they have, when they're in the water, and they're like, oh, there's something at my feet. Oh, it's just a turtle.
It's a turtle.
That was it. So they alluded to a turtle. So people are like, oh, a turtle. But so many things in the original where they didn't include it because of, like I said, because of time, because of the decade, because of whatever. It was okay. It didn't ruin the movie.
No. And, realistically, like you said in the book, like, within the first 200 pages, they talk about this great talking turtle over 50 times.
I'm guessing this will be the reverse if we start talking comics and Star Wars. They'll be looking at us.
Choreo.
Yeah.
No.
There's quite a few comics I know too.
I would say I'm very passionate about what I know. I don't know a lot, but when I do know it, I am very passionate about it. So,
Corey, who's your number one?
Oh, hey, me. My number one, I'm surprised it hasn't been brought up, to be honest. Dracula.
Oh, okay. Which one?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It's a clear choice for me.
That's the thing.
The
Dracula as a character is my number one. Dracula will always be Bela Lugosi, but Gary Oldman did a killer job.
That's where I'm at. I'm the Gary Oldman.
1992, Gary Oldman in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Go figure. But
and don't forget Adam Sandler.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, you better bring in Nick Cage too. Oh.
I still haven't watched that movie.
Okay.
I forced myself for the 20 minutes, and then I.
Bela Lugosi was incredible. Christopher Lee was incredible. Gary Oldman was incredible. Like, the character is amazing, and it's Bram Stoker penned the book in 1896, and yet we still talk about it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry, no, I was.
It might have been 1897, but regardless, it was 1897.
No.
Yeah,
that's good.
Do you know whether or not that was the first reference to vampires ever?
No. It was the first Dracula reference. Let's not forget, Vlad the Impaler was like the 1600s.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you saw my Facebook post about Halloween lawn decorator champion. That was a picture of Vlad the Impaler, and what he did is he killed. He was a general, and they killed the other army. And whenever he killed a general, he would have their head chopped off and put on a stake high in his yard. The more important they were, the higher the stake. Otherwise, every person he killed got on a stake, and then what he would do is he would insanguinate them. Big word. And he would put their blood in a bowl, and he would dip bread in the blood and eat the bread. So that was what influenced Dracula.
I feel like that's where the term higher stakes comes from.
Well, Vlad the Impaler too.
Oh my god, I never thought of that.
Right? But Vlad the Impaler too wouldn't just chop off their heads and impale them.
Oh, those
yeah. So he would actually take you live. Don't know how the hell he did this. Nobody's actually figured it out fully, I don't think. But he would impale you. Anal up through the mouth.
Yeah.
If you do it properly.
Alive,
yeah.
If you do it through the jaw.
Yep.
It would take up to days, potentially.
And then he would have feasts and watch you die. That is where the original term for Dracula does come from, based on what they would call him.
Yeah, there's a lot of history of grotesqueness that goes through the Romans.
I know, like, the Dracula Untold movies and all that stuff kind of touch on it, but real life is a lot scarier than a movie. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And he was Romanian. Like, Transylvania is now Romania. A lot of people don't realize, like, oh, Transylvania was fiction. No, it wasn't. It was a thing, but it just got changed over. Just kind of like how Czechoslovakia broke up into the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Transylvania was real. It just turned into Romania.
Mm-hmm.
And his castle is still there if you look for it. Like,
you can actually do tours.
I don't know if they're still doing tours. Are they still doing tours?
They are doing tours.
Is it Vlad's castle or is
it's Vlad's
It's Vlad's castle.
Which is basically the inspiration again for Dracula's castle.
Now, they only use the main one that he was at. They don't actually use his.
Well,
I guess summer
he took
one?
over a ton of land.
He did.
Now, he wasn't like Napoleon or Hitler, but he took over a ton of land.
If you
So,
pissed him off, he'd go kill you.
yeah,
It's
he was, like I said, he was a general first, and he was
just
psycho.
doing his job. Why does he get such a bad rap? I mean,
But
I
it was
mean,
when he drank the blood. When he drank the blood, and by the drinking, he didn't really drink it. He kind of ate it because he dipped bread into it. He ate it. That's where it was like, oh my god, he drinks people's blood. That's where that came from. So Bram Stoker comes along 200 years later, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna have a story with this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever read Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's not a book. It's a diary. It's a collection of diaries from the different characters. So it's actually a hard read if you didn't expect that. But it's something else. I mean, obviously, 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula movie covered it best.
yes.
But the character will live in infamy, and as such, he is my number one.
I would not argue that one bit.
Very compelling.
Jeff?
My number one has been said a couple times, so I'm not going to really talk about it that much. Freddy Krueger was my number
Nice.
one,
Nice.
just because the personality. You talked about where you pick your villains off by the psychology, and for horror, for me, it's not the psychology, because I think I'm not a big horror guy, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have picked
Nobody's
Silence of the Lambs or Misery as horror movies. I think of like the Friday the 13th movies, and he's such a big personality in those movies. That's why I enjoy him, and that's why he's my number one.
And the funny thing is, I am such a visual person. I learn visually. I receive things visually. And I would totally agree with you. And I totally understand why somebody picks a Jason or a Freddy, because of the visual representation they bring forward in their movies.
Well, and that's why I said my list was mainstream, but with reason.
Yeah.
Like you can't. If Freddy Krueger, you have an image pop in your head instantly. Right?
Horror.
Like as soon as you think of Freddy.
There's like,
It's same with Dracula too. Like you hear that word, there's an image that pops in your head instantly.
And generally,
That's
the only
what-
two is Gary Oldman and Bela Lugosi.
and it's funny, it just popped into my head. The idea, you say horror, there's like 4 or 5 guys that jump into your face right away. You know, whether it's Jason, Michael Myers, blah, we go through the list. Dracula's the last one because he's overused. The idea of Dracula through comedies, through this or that, has been diluted.
You reference Jason Voorhees, and then Dracula's been overused. That's it.
Well, Jason Voorhees has been overused in 10 films. Dracula's been overused in 100 films.
11
yeah.
for Jason, by the way.
What's that?
11 for Jason, by the way.
I love
Oh, yeah,
it.
okay. So, my point being is, we have
Actually,
comedies
12
about
if you include the
Dracula, we got,
remake, so.
Yeah, but we agreed Jason
Yeah,
X doesn't
and that's-
exist. Only to Jeff.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. Gary Oldman is the creepiest, most vile, whatever. But for every Gary Oldman, there's 14 Nicolas Cages or
Leslie Nielsen.
or Leslie Nielsen, or it's a diluted concept. So for me, that visual.
And even with the 50,000 freaking vampire movies out there, you're right, not all of them are Dracula, but yet the majority that are, you're right, have killed the character.
Didn't Dracula make it into
sad,
one of the
that's
Blade
it.
movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dominic Purcell from Prison
Yeah.
Break played him.
Like
Yeah, the
Great.
He has
That was
made it
Blade
into a
Trinity.
superhero movie. That
Blade
is
Trinity,
how
yeah.
dominant Dracula is.
comedy, superhero, cartoons,
Yeah.
Batman versus whatever.
Yeah.
It goes, and then that's the only takeaway I will give to Dracula. Otherwise, I totally agree with the idea, the vicious.
But that said, he's so something
Yes.
that he has been iterated in every freaking medium possible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. When done right, it's hard to argue. So, and I totally agree with
Because,
that.
I mean, we did Lost Boys
There's a-
last week, and you take, what's his name? The bad guy. The main bad guy.
Is David the bad guy?
No,
No, David's Keith Sutherland.
Jesus, I can't remember his
Kiefer.
name now.
Not
What are you
Kiefer.
talking?
Kiefer.
The Edward Herman character in Lost Boys.
Yeah, I can
Max.
picture-
Oh,
Max. Max in Lost Boys was the head vampire, and he was freaking amazing, but he wasn't Dracula. But it shows that the vampire genre, which is actually, for the longest time, was my favorite genre.
Now we got
There's
that
so many
stupid
good-
song stuck in my head.
Which
You
one?
still have to listen to the Marilyn Manson one.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, Marilyn Manson. We talked about that in the last one. Marilyn Manson covered the "Cry Little Sister" song, and it was really well done. But yeah, no, the character has either been put on a pedestal or made fun of completely, and there's no third direction.
Yeah.
So
For sure. No. It's
Yeah.
a band.
yeah,
It's alright.
but yeah, how did we get off topic from Freddy Krueger to
Yeah, I know,
to
you always-
Dracula?
No,
You're
you're
number
number
one.
one. Or no. What
Yeah,
is
but we
your-
were on his for Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, we came on a. Yeah,
Oh, the idea of what is iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it deviated into.
Apparently, I picked a good divisive.
You're arguably the most iconic, but one of the most iconic characters of all time, really.
Yeah.
Because you take any of these characters we're talking about, they did not exist before Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But Mike, what's your number one?
I feel like we're going to be very anticlimactic here, just because of the fact that because of my psychology, I was going with Patrick Bateman,
nice.
American Psycho. But the minute you said Dracula, I questioned it. I totally did. I said, Jesus. Yeah, but again, I think through my mentality, my perception of everything, Jason Bateman presented the
Patrick Bateman.
Yeah, yeah. Jason.
Jason Bateman, the actor. Yes.
Yes.
Very scary and.
Yes.
It was a character in Spoken Aces.
Yeah. I like Jason Bateman. Yeah. But no, Patrick Bateman from American Psycho is just that. The idea of that character was a really enjoyable movie that I only watched like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it was just one of those things that glazed over. And because it's fresh, it tends to sit a little
Well, and that's
stronger.
probably my theory with Art the Clown and Terrifier. He's fresh.
Sorry, I gotta say this. I watched the movie today before I came here, and I was very enjoyed by it. I loved it, and I thought about that character, but I can't remember its name. And it ended up being two people. But I watched that totally. Oh, it's the new one. It just came out.
Can you describe the movie?
It's Back to the Future, but horror, and it's a girl, and she goes back to the future.
I just
Happy
saw
Happy
about
Death
that.
Day.
It just came out on Amazon,
Oh.
and it's like, this is what I dreamed of, like taking Back to the Future. Let's not remake it, but let's be influenced by that. And it was a young girl. Friend made a time machine, went back in time because her mom was traumatized by these murders that happened. She got caught up, and now she's with her mom, and it was 80s, so it's just like, oh my God, how did the 80s survive? It was so nostalgic with the references.
I didn't see this
Dodgeball.
movie. I don't know what this
It was,
is. I
I
don't have Prime though, but I
total
have other ways.
total thriller.
Not your day.
Oh, Totally Killer.
Totally killer. Yes.
That's been on hitting my Instagram feed
I
repeatedly
have
right
not
now.
felt so good and enjoyed a movie like that in a long time. Was
It's
it
been
brilliant?
great
I don't
reviews.
know, but I loved it.
No,
And
it's like I said, it's been popping up on my Instagram feed
and it was
repeatedly, and it's
technically a horror thriller.
Yeah.
So
I seen the synopsis for that, and I was just like, man, that should have been Death Day 3. Or was it so completely different than that? I don't know if you saw
Happy Death Day was
Happy Death Day.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, that was Groundhog.
But the end of the second one, she's got a time machine in the end of that one. So when I saw the premises for that, I really enjoyed those movies.
No, this was
they were great movies.
This is a great play on Back to the Future. It was. It totally was. It was a girl, and it was a mom, it was different things. It had a nostalgic connection between kids and us, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, I have a friend on my TV that can get me some of these movies.
You're not gonna talk about that in public space.
No.
That's why
That's
it's
what I
just
said,
a friend.
It's a friend on my TV. Their name is Cody, and anyway, so I'll have to check that out. So
So do I still get to say final thoughts?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, final. Okay.
Final thoughts?
Okay.
Seems weird to say final
I'm gonna
thoughts.
interject in here.
Um,
Knowing now what we know, has anybody got a different pick they would put for number one that they haven't mentioned at all?
Well,
And this is super quick. This is gonna be super quick.
I got a quick one. I was gonna throw it in there, and I just felt like it didn't fit in. But I was gonna go in with at one point, Alex, Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah.
Just talk about creepy things that
Yeah.
makes me not feel human anymore.
That was a hard watch for me. So.
I don't want to argue with your list because I fully think it's a subjective thing, but for me, there's a lot of movies that you pick the villains from that I wouldn't classify as like you're a horror in this, but it's subjective, right? So like,
It's fair.
But a lot of them do fall into thriller category.
yeah, and I'm not gonna say like you got to change your list or anything like that because I'm not about that because I wouldn't have thought of the villains that you picked because that wouldn't have fallen into mine. Like that, all very good villains.
And that's one of the things I was excited about coming here for. That idea, the perspective, the discussion and the perspective of what you define as.
Yeah, and
I
that's
think,
why that when we do the podcast in November for what genre is this, it's going to be a lot of fun. Jeff, anything you want to add?
Gremlins just about ended up on my list. And, because I love the characters of the Gremlins. And they're villains, and that's technically a horror movie.
It is not a horror movie. It's a Christmas movie.
I have a horror Christmas movie that I want to do on the
Better
podcast.
watch out.
Huh?
Better watch out.
No, Out on the Apocalypse.
have you
Okay,
done
well, that one's not bad
Silent.
either.
Yeah.
But Better Watch Out is literally the horror version of Home Alone.
Really?
Yes.
So was Violent Night.
Yes.
You could have an entire podcast on what is defined as a Christmas movie.
Whoa,
Die
Hard.
Die Hard.
in December, actually.
And you'll serve pineapple on pizza during it.
Hell
Absolutely.
no.
I'm with you.
No.
Yes.
No.
Pineapple belongs on pizza.
So nobody debated pineapple on pizza until about 10 years ago.
Until the internet.
Everyone just accepted it. The internet decided that
Yeah.
was the
I have never
the Nickelback
accepted
thing all over
pineapple
again.
on
it's a
pizza.
Nickelback thing.
I've never accepted pineapple.
Well, like you can't have fruit on a pizza. Tomato.
Okay.
Yeah.
Intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
Right. The fact that I instigated this, I don't have a thought right now.
Good job, Corey.
Right?
Good job.
Reagan. Possession
Right.
movies.
Oh,
So
I thought you were
Reagan.
like Ronald.
No.
Reagan's
Reagan's
race.
Reaganomics was really terrible. Yes, it's.
I was actually thinking Reagan too, but going back to like Bela Lugosi and Dracula and all that, Frankenstein.
But he wasn't a monster. Well, he was a monster, but he wasn't a bad guy.
See, that's where you're wrong.
Was the bad guy.
Frankenstein
Yeah,
is the bad guy.
Doctor Frankenstein was the bad guy, not
Yeah.
Frankenstein's monster.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Frankenstein was the bad guy.
Frankenstein was the bad guy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way.
Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
Frankenstein was
not
just misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got-
Bolts on my neck.
I got a question for you. We talked about John Carpenter. Love his movie. Somebody told me that The Thing is a horror movie.
It is.
Okay, I love the movie. I love John Carpenter. I love Kurt Russell. Who's the villain in that?
The Thing.
The thing.
The Thing. But there's no emotional or psychological whatever. It's nothing. It's
It's
just
the black slime. That's the thing.
It's
the
just how well John Carpenter
from
wrote
the
it.
theater perspective, the villain is the people, each other, the blame, the psychological situation. They're all in. They created their own villain. That was just a thing that killed them.
Okay, but arguing with it that way, then you can argue that in Body Snatchers, the people are the villains.
I agree.
Did you ever read Rage by Stephen King? It was part of his Richard Bachman books before it was banned.
No.
So Rage was, and the reason it was banned is it had to do with school shootings. But the point is, this guy holds his classroom hostage, And by the end of the book, there are people siding with the shooter and understanding the psyche of the shooter, and that's why this movie was banned. But it's one of those things that you can have a bad guy predefined, but by the end, you'd be second guessing whether they really are the bad guy.
That's great
Those are
storytelling,
great. Yeah.
great character building, and I think you can have a villain that's just bad because he's bad, and you can have a villain that you're sympathetic with because he's doing the right thing for the wrong or the wrong thing for the right reason. And I think you can have both in different worlds.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
It's just like I can't remember the name of the movie, but another perfect villain, and this one's probably going to get a lot of hate, is God.
Yep. Oh, perfect.
Well, shit, we just lost half our target audience, didn't we?
Wow.
So.
In the horror movie,
Oh.
God is actually the bad guy.
Which horror movie?
I cannot remember
The
the name
Stand?
of it. No,
Oh, the Seventh
no.
Sign?
Yeah, no, no.
The one with Demi
no,
Moore?
No,
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I mean that one's good too.
Seventh Seal.
But Seventh
No,
Seal,
Sign.
Seventh
Sign,
Sign,
Seal?
yeah.
Sign.
it's
I think it was
Seventh
The one with Demi
Sign.
Moore, anyway. So.
But no, I cannot remember the name of it. But Satan's actually the good guy, and God is the bad guy.
I gotta see this movie. I gotta see
Oh,
this
I think there's a very good perspective on that.
I honestly, and that's my second honorable mention, would be Satan. Because between Al Pacino, between Gabriel
He's
Byrne,
just
between
misunderstood.
No, Satan is the good guy.
and that's what made those movies that he's all been in. Like I said, between Devil's Advocate, between Stigmata, not Stigmata, but the other one I'm thinking, End of Days.
He's the good guy in Constantine.
Yeah.
Sort of. Like
Yeah.
he saves the day.
He's
They-
the anti-hero.
When they make
that's a villain. Right? That's not
when
really
they make a compelling argument,
Well,
and you're like,
It's in the gray area.
it's in the gray area. Like there's an
Constantine,
argument.
he's
was a
a
great
bad
villain.
guy in that movie. But I loved him.
Yeah.
Peter Stormare was incredible. But no, when every time Satan's in a movie, and he always has a line, and you hear that line, and you're like, holy crap, that makes sense.
But Mike, great having you.
There you go.
Laura, awesome as always. Corey, take us away.
Chorus.
Chorus.
All right.
Chorus.
This is a fun one. I really hope you guys are all listening to this. Instagram, Facebook, Spotify. Please give us a listen. Otherwise, thank you for everything, guys.
Thank you for having me. A fantastic time. Love y'all.
Thanks for coming, Mike. Tonight was fun.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
He
Catch you
keeps
guys later.
stealing my lines.
Is that it?